Welcome to the Sensual Canvas, a soft landing space where creativity flows and presence becomes art. This season, I'm joined by creators, feelers, and soulful storytellers, each exploring the richness of self-expression and sensual living. So take a deep breath in, settle in, and let's begin. Today on the Sensual Canvas podcast to speak to the gorgeous Safwat Shafiq. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. It's a real pleasure and honor to be here with you today.
It means so much to me, especially because I'm so new to this. And I feel like when I see your content online, I'm just like, how does she do it? Like the way that she just shows up in her beautiful energy and she just shares like effortlessly, like day to day. I'm like, how the heck does she do it?
That
So
is
how do you do it?
that is honestly such a big compliment because in my head, I feel like I'm still not there yet. I still feel very, very self-conscious on camera because I don't know, it's so funny. Before YouTube, I never even used to take pictures of myself that much. I was like not a picture person, not a video person. But then this YouTube, I don't know, since I started personal development, self-improvement, um, which has been a decade now, I have always felt like, okay, hopefully someday I get to share what I have been learning. And since I started this, it's a great compliment coming from you that it feels natural, or the energy, you can actually feel the energy. But yeah, there's still, I think, a lot more to learn with every video. That's just what I'm trying to learn more and just spread my lived experiences through something that I feel like more women can learn from and start embodying in their day-to-day life so that the world can become more balanced.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like I can definitely see online there is this imbalance. It's
Mhm.
this very like masculine driven energy. And slowly but surely, like through content like yours, I'm seeing like women show up in that like ease, in that flow. And it's beautiful to witness because like when you first came into the women's group, like this
Mhm.
space is like already so safe, and you come in and you're kind of shy, and then you're like, oh, actually I have like a YouTube channel, and you just start like putting all this content out. I'm like, what the heck, where did she come from? Like, so it's just really incredible to see that that shift can be made so quickly. It's comforting to know that like at any point in your life, like you can choose like a different like path, a different direction of like alignment or ease, or I can it's like very deeply relate to that for sure.
That's true. I definitely agree that we can change the course of our life at any moment. And like you were saying, the imbalance, the masculine overdrive, how I like to call it, or like the hustle culture, grinding, mentality. We're always on the go, go, go. And I'm not I always try to make sure that even in my videos, I'm not saying that, oh, just don't do anything, just be in ease. I always try to mention that we need a balance in this world. And how do we bring that? By being balanced within ourselves between the masculine and the feminine. And I know I have been in the masculine overdrive for probably till the last year or so.
Mm.
Um, I was born in a very small country, and growing up there, I always knew that, okay, if I want a good life for myself, then I need to have the best grades, get a good job. And it sort of culminated to me moving out of my home country when I was 19 by myself, because I wanted to pursue higher education in subjects that are still not very known in my country, so there's not many opportunities. But I wanted to study biomedical engineering. Growing up, I always had this engineer or doctor thing in my head that, oh, when I grow up I'll be, and nobody, like, I don't think anybody told me that directly, that you have to be this. But it's like,
Yeah.
growing up, for some reason I just picked that up, that I don't know, maybe it seemed powerful to me, or I get to have a good life, something like that. So I always used to tell myself I'll either be an engineer or a doctor. And then by the time I was applying to university, I was like, wait, what is this subject, biomedical engineering? That sounded like the perfect blend of my two different worlds. So I applied and, traveled halfway around the world when I was 18 or 19, somewhere around that. So starting from there, I think I was very much in my masculine
Mm.
um, for at least a decade, where it's a new country, the weather is completely different, people, how they talk, how they, like, everything, just the culture,
Yeah.
weather, everything was so different. And also the subject I was studying, engineering, was very, very tough. So I feel like I definitely went into an overdrive where I was constantly like not taking care of myself, not sleeping properly, just very much in that hustle mode.
Yeah.
And that's what I always try to share in my content as well, that it definitely gave me a lot of stuff. Like, I had the degree, then I started my career a little bit different, I went into software development. And again, tech is super, like, I find it funny, we're living in the 21st century and it's still so male dominated. I was
Yeah.
always the only woman in every team that I
Yeah.
worked on.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like, it felt so pressurizing some days, and sometimes that even when I'm doing so much, like I'm doing all the 40 hours, a man who doesn't have a family might pull up 60 hours, and then I start looking bad. I'm like, you're not doing enough. And I think that just got to a point, I remember very vividly, on one of my weekend getaways with my then boyfriend, now husband. We were driving and I just randomly burst into tears. I'm
Oh,
like, oh, what am I doing? God put me on this world as a woman, and I'm just fueling my masculine side at least 8 hours a day, if not more. Some days, work days would become 12 hours. And I just started seeing that every aspect of my life was becoming so serious, so dense, like constantly on the go, go, go. Even the relationship that I had with my boyfriend, even that started, I started seeing cracks coming into that, which was like, it never happened before. We
mm,
met in high school, our relationship, we both were evolving, growing together. But the more I went into my masculine energy, I started seeing that crack, like, because he's very masculine too. Now when we started dating, I was in high school, I was more in my feminine. Now I understand that. But the more I was in corporate, in engineering, in tech, I sort of started becoming more masculine. Even in my personal life, I could not separate that anymore.
mm,
So I started seeing that, like, weirdly, my work became more of a priority than my relationship. Everything's like, everything kind of started feeling like, wait, why am I doing all of this again? What was the point? Like, I'm building so much, I'm living independently in one of the most expensive cities, in my own apartment, like I have my own life, I have so much, but it started feeling so empty inside. And I remember I was like, one day I started crying in that drive back home, and the words that were coming out of my mouth, that God put me in this world as a woman, I don't know what I'm doing, why am I it was even a surprise to me, because I never thought of it like that before.
yeah.
And I was saying it, but it was like, where is this coming from? How come I never put it in words before? And now it's almost like overflowing from me, because I remember it was probably a 5 or 6 hours drive. And I think I cried the entire way. My boyfriend had a headache by the time we reached.
Oh
He's
my
like,
gosh.
he's always very supportive. So I was able to do that. But now that I think about it, like, it got to a point where I could not ignore that anymore. And so after that, of course, when you spend so many years building a life, you cannot just uproot it like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I cannot still like leave everything. I built this. I have to be here. And there were other legal stuff, like it's a new country. If I don't have a job, I cannot have a permit, like stuff like that.
Right.
So I was like, what can I start doing? Super small, very micro actions that will not fully uproot my life, but at least I wanted to start seeing that feminine side
Mm,
um, flourish back in myself.
yeah.
And I remember I started with buying plants, like a few small plants. And every day in my apartment, I would like water them, sit with them just for a few hours, without phone, because I became so like productive, constant in my head. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, for 1 to 2 hours, I'll just water them, sit with the plants. So I started like talking to myself almost with the
Mhm.
plants being there, just really being present. Now that I look back, it was actually just being present in the moment. And I think that's where my journey started, from back to this feminine energy and balancing everything. But that's where it initially started, that, with very micro actions. And I think slowly now a lot has changed. And it's funny, like, I think 2 years back, I was like sitting at a corporate job, like talking to clients and all the male team members. And today I'm sitting here talking to you. How quickly life changes talking to you. And like, I'm still awestruck by your painting behind you. So I'm a little distracted, but it's so beautiful. Both you
Thank
and the
you.
painting. It's almost weird for me. Like, now that I'm thinking, like, wow, 2 years back, I was like probably in a super fight or flight mode at this point of time in the day.
Yeah.
But now I'm relaxed, talking to you, laughing.
I think it's just so incredible too, like as I reflect on, the even just like the past couple of years, like the person that I was at the beginning of, even last year is a
Mhm.
complete different person than I am now. It's like even like being able to hold space like this. We were both like so excited before we came
Yeah.
on, and like even being able to just do like a little shaking exercise with each other like that, like I would have literally held in all of that energy like the entire time, and then just expected myself to like act like everything is okay and I have it all put together. But it's like when we open up that space to just feel into the moment and accept like all the feelings, we can allow that in other like people, like we can accept that in other people, and it just like compounds, it like echoes throughout life. I think it's so incredible that you made that decision to leave your corporate job, because that's no easy thing to do, and you were probably getting paid so well and had
Mhm.
all this like structure and safety in that, right?
Yeah.
You knew, like your feminine knew, like, hey, I want to be seen too, like let
Mhm.
me play as well. So I love that with the plants. Like I feel like nature has such a beautiful way of also bringing us back to like
Yeah.
presence always.
Mhm.
Like I go on walks sometimes and I can smell the trees and I immediately just like I like melt into like the earth.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh
Like, it's almost funny that I find it very funny that when I go out for a walk, suddenly I just feel so good. Every problem seems smaller. I'm like, why don't I do this enough every time? Where I live, the weather is not that great. So it's like
yeah,
probably we get good weather 4 months a year. So most of the time it's like bad, like very cold.
yeah.
So I still have to, but even when I get out in the cold, I'm like, oh, this is like a cold shower. They're having a cold bath or cold shower. I'm like, this is a cold shower for me if I just walk around the streets. But yeah, nature definitely has a great way of bringing us back. And I have mostly lived in cities so far. So
Mm,
I'll take vacations near more nature. But even in cities, I have found that it's not the same as if I had like a whole field, or I'm walking on grass, or I'm at the beach. Definitely that has a bigger impact. But even within cities, I have found that if I just get out, um, walk around, there's some trees. Even being near other people, I feel like that people that I don't know, I'm not talking, but at least having that energy around, as opposed to just being on devices all the time. So
yeah.
especially, I'm saying, because I work from home, right? Even during my tech career, I was working from home. So I feel like sometimes I get so bogged down with
Yeah.
screens. um, there is a funny saying that, we work on the medium screen most of the time, and we reward ourselves with the big screen. while we scroll on the little screen on our phone. So
Hush.
I I try now I try. Before I was like constantly, even if I when I was not working, I would be on some sort of like I'm listening to something educational or
Mm,
improvement related, like constantly. I constantly felt like I was like a project almost that I needed to fix. Like I'm constantly improving and fixing. Whereas now, the more I'm balancing um, the feminine side with this masculine side, I'm realizing that I am not a project to be fixed. I can just be. And it's so funny. People say that um, the masculine is human doing and the feminine is the human being. So I feel like it's so important for all of us. It doesn't matter man, woman, whatever. Like it's so important that we actually honor both of those sides within ourselves. And that just automatically, the more I'm realizing, that just automatically creates a balanced life. And the more you have access to both of these sides to yourself, it's just having toolkits in your tool belt. Now
yeah.
you have two sides that you have mastered, and you can um I always say that it's a slider, babe. Like you do not need to be either or, and I tell that to myself because all my life I have been like a zero or one person. When I do
Mm.
something, I go super hard and then I'm like completely out of it. So it has been always like a roller coaster for me. Anything
Mm,
like showing up in my business or working out, eating, right? Like every time I'd be like super strict with myself and like put myself on a regimen almost and
mm,
be very strict. But then when that pendulum swings, it swings all the way to the other end. And I've been like, for the past year, I've been really trying to get more in balance with everything, masculine, feminine, as well as these tiny micro habits that we do every day. Because for me, balance is so underrated. That's what I'm realizing, that I was never a balanced person. And I really looked at it as plus to have that. Oh, I can go really hard when I need to. I do not always have to be working on something. I can just be super intense and then take some time off. But the more I'm realizing that no, intensity, yes, it matters, but consistency is what really builds your character, right? So the more we can be balanced within, I feel like automatically we create a life that is balanced, that can be impactful but also peaceful.
yeah.
So I think that's what is my mission right now for
Yeah.
myself as well as for teaching.
Yeah. And it's incredible work. Like the duality of like masculine and feminine, like it's like you said, it's not just one thing. Like it doesn't have to be. Like that's the beauty of life. It can be this beautiful ebb and flow.
Mhm.
And like I think for the longest time, I put pressure on myself to be in that masculine as well. It was always pressuring myself and even getting down on myself that, oh, it's not enough. Like it needs to be better. It needs to be more.
Yeah.
And I even saw that in my art for, the longest time. It wasn't coming from that feminine flow state the way it does now. It was coming from this producing this better than others, this better than myself attitude. And I lost that joy of creation. And
Mhm.
so I feel like with the work that I'm doing, it brings people into this space of like getting it wrong, like do it like rough and raw and ugly and just be seen in that being energy. And I find it so beautiful, like when I'm able to like share that space with people, because like I find the uninhibited nature of expression so beautiful. And
Mhm.
so speaking of expression, like how do you express yourself?
In terms of expression, I have to say that dancing has always been something that I don't even know where it comes from, honestly. Like growing up, I think as far as I can remember, I was always dancing. Um, I would like hide almost because I would um I would choreograph different dances in my head and then, pretend like, oh, I'm just going to take a shower. Actually, in my washroom, I'm practicing that. So I remember that and even like dance forms such as salsa. I don't know, like I don't think I have ever seen anyone, especially when I was young in back home in my country, the culture I came from, there is nothing, it has nothing to do with salsa. But I don't know why my hips always moved. I was like, I was doing almost professional level salsa without any training when I was a child. And then, slowly I started seeing different TV shows and I would download those videos and like fast forward it and then slow it, look at what they're doing and just practice it on my own or with my little sister. Like I would become the man in that dance and like try it with her, try those choreographies, those lifts with her. So dancing has always, even now, sometimes like if there has been a small gap, I always tell my husband that, I need to go dancing, please take me dancing this weekend. So I feel like I don't always feel the need, but if there has been a gap that I really haven't danced, whether that's while I'm doing my makeup or my skincare or somewhere outside, I feel it. I start feeling it in my body that something's off. Like either I need to go on a night out where I can just dance with my husband, or maybe I need to have a washroom dance party while I do my makeup. But I start feeling it now. And before I didn't pay much attention to it, but there was a time when I wanted to be a dancer actually. And then I not wanted to be a dancer, I wanted to take professional lessons. So we didn't have like other dance forms back home, but I remember I wanted to learn our like classical dance.
Uh-huh.
And even that was not allowed. It was like, nope, you cannot learn dance. Because my dad's fear was, because he knew that I'm very like emotional and very serious about what I do. He's like,
Mm.
if I start taking dancing professionally, he knew that I will never pursue any like degree or like, more adult subjects, I guess, that which ended up happening. Like I was so sad after they told me that I could not take professional lesson. I think I almost like stopped for many years and I went so much into the other end, like engineering, tech. And but now I'm like, okay, I do not have to dance professionally, but I can at least dance for myself. Like I genuinely enjoy that. So then I started bringing it back into my life. Like, okay, I think my child self, like the one that was like really hurt and almost like I will never do that again, a type of, from a wound, not like anger, like from a wound. So I was like, okay, I think I have healed her enough that now we can dance by ourselves and it's totally fine. So dancing, and I also used to paint as a kid, but over the years I have discontinued. But I sometimes do. I'll probably just doodle or make something. I really like crafts. So like crafts, or now crafts has changed more into like writing affirmations or making things like cute and then have putting it on my wall so that while I'm working I can still remind myself that, okay, remember to be also take feminine breaks, also take stillness breaks. So stuff like that. But I think that's also, as you can see, I talk a lot also. So yeah, these are my forms of expression.
Yeah, and creativity as well. I feel like the conversations that you have, they're so creative as well. Like their creation of your
Hmm.
experiences and what you desire and all these things. So that isn't always easy for people to do as well. Like expressing themselves through their voice is such a skill and such a creative outlet that it's so
Hmm.
beautiful to witness as well. So I love that so much.
Thank
You
you.
said on your I watched this YouTube video that you posted and you mentioned about being divinely selfish. And I
Yeah.
loved that so much that I literally tagged it on my easel. In my studio, I have a massive easel and it's literally right there. It's like, I am divinely selfish. And I'm like, I love that so much because the way
Oh,
that you
that's so
worded it,
sweet.
like like the word selfish has such a negative connotation to it.
Mm-hmm.
And you put the word divinely in front of it, and I'm like, yes, like this is exactly like what I want to embody when I create, when I am showing up for my creativity and my self-expression.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about that, and how
Yeah,
you like show up as your divinely selfish self.
for sure. So I recently I realized that there were a few people growing up through different phases of my life who were very selfish, and it
Mm,
always triggered me in a bad way. Because their selfishness was not just they were not just being selfish to protect themselves or to do something good for themselves. It always had a angle of harming someone else. Like
mm,
they would take advantage of innocent people or good-hearted, good-natured people. So while I think I was doing shadow work or something, and it came up to me that, the selfishness, like I wish I could be like that. I wish I could be like them. Then, I would just care about myself and not, not become so empathetic that I take on other people's problem or always try to do too much, overgive, over explain. um and then it occurred to me, but I also don't want to be selfish like them, because that means I will have to take advantage of other people, innocent people, like the way that probably they were taking advantage of me. So in my head I was like, every time I said like, oh, I want to be selfish, or this year I'm going to be selfish, it didn't sit right with me. It was like, oh, but I don't want to take advantage of others. And in my head, those two were like almost joined together, that if you're selfish, you're taking advantage of other people, because that's just what I saw growing up.
yeah.
So I think I was on a walk and suddenly it came to me. I was like, wait, but I can be divinely selfish if I'm not taking advantage of others. If the only reason I am making a decision is for my betterment, and it is not harming anyone else, then that's not selfish, that's just divinely selfish. So in my head it just came up very almost like making myself understand that, yes, Safwat, you realize that you have been people pleasing all your life, so how do you get out of it? And again, the engineering kind of made me into a very solution mindset person. So anytime like my brain is going like this is like the moment I identify a problem, and then immediately it switches into like solution mode. So I do not dwell in problems. There was a time back in the day when I was very like victim mindset, victim mentality, but once I got out of it, now I'm like immediately I try to switch to, okay, what can we do to solve it? And it doesn't have to be a one solution that works out perfect. Most of the time it's a trial and error. I go through many solutions before something sticks. So I was trying to solve this in my head for quite some time, that okay, how do I really step into that identity where I know when to draw the line. I know when to draw up those boundaries so that I'm not taken advantage of. And it did not fully land in myself until realized like, wait, if I'm not hurting anyone, if I'm not harming anyone, if I'm not taking advantage of anyone, and the only reason for my decision is my own betterment, my well-being, then that is divinely selfish. So that's how it came up to be.
Yeah, that's incredible. And so, like, now it's like the energy that you put behind this word is so much different than how it was before. Before it was like judgment, and it
Mhm.
was, oh, I don't want to become this person who
Mhm.
takes advantage of people. And it
Yeah.
became, no, I am rephrasing like the word for myself
Mhm.
so that I can embody this energy that is good, that does
Yeah.
good, and is also expansive too. Like I think when I first did like that type of work on selfishness, I same thing, that shadow work that comes up, and I mean, I felt like I was judging certain people in my life for being selfish.
Mhm.
And then you see, wow, it's actually really beautiful what this lesson is teaching me about myself and what
Yeah.
I'm holding myself back from.
Mhm.
So it's it's beautiful to like have it rephrased, but then for your little spin on it, I just love it so much more. So It's
Yeah, I
just
think
there in my studio.
I think it's just a way to honor ourselves, because most of the times, I think, especially for good-hearted or empathetic people, it's so easy to cross that line where you stop honoring yourself because you want to honor someone else. And again, I don't think it comes from any like, oh, consciously I'm concocting this plan, nothing like that. It just happens so naturally
Yeah.
that I felt like I needed that barrier to remind myself, because there are certain things that I have worked on myself for years, like the victim mentality thing I told you. But this one, it's new to me. It has been governing my life probably all these years, but I have been aware of this for a very short amount of time. So I still need almost like baby locks in places, so that I do not slip into that old programming. So words like these, and I guess one of my top love languages is words of affirmation. So words are super important to me. I have realized that over over the years. So I really try phrasing things in such a way just for myself. It really helps me out. I will have different words or different phrases written on like different pages on the and stuck on the wall, or I have a big whiteboard. So right now I have inner mastery written. Few months back it was probably self-disciplined or divinely selfish. So I go through words and phrases like these to remind myself of what my priority is, more in terms of like self-growth or evolution in this season of life. So that was one of the phrases that came up, divinely selfish. But I'm very glad that it resonated with you so deeply.
Totally resonated. And I'm pretty sure it did with a lot of other people too, because that's such a beautiful way of like phrasing it. So
Mhm.
I hope that anybody listening too can also like reflect on their own like ideas around selfishness and maybe give it a positive spin and
Mhm.
see it as a beautiful thing to embrace in oneself, not
Yeah.
to look down on, you know?
Yeah.
So I have this tradition on my podcast, and I love to ask, what does sensuality mean to you?
Sensuality to me means being fully me, like owning who I am, owning every bit of good and bad, happy and sad, just being the full spectrum. I call it the feminine spectrum. So fully embracing the deepest depth as well as the bright light that we can be.
It's so beautiful. Do you feel that sensuality is more a feminine energy or more a masculine energy?
I think it's more feminine for sure. I don't think and that's where I think male, female, or masculine, feminine, they're not equal. They can be complementary for sure, but not equal. They have different traits to themselves, which make the two very unique, and beautiful in their own way. But sensuality, I would definitely categorize it as more feminine, and it's something that I don't think men feel it. I don't think men feel that much sensuality within themselves as us women. We can feel it.
Mm. I've had a couple of men on here, and it's just fascinating how like the way that they see it, it's touch, it's senses. But for me, I feel like the like sensuality has like a deeper like essence behind that, and it's like energetics, and
Hmm.
it's this like, yes, touch, but that touch with emotion, that touch with like how that energy fills and radiates like throughout my day and to like gives to other people as well. So I feel like sensuality goes beyond just like, oh, that felt nice to be touched on the
Hmm.
hand. It's like, but that ignited something that, made me want to go to my studio and paint and express myself in all these different ways. So
Hmm.
we have this word like sensuality. And it's like, yeah, sure. Like so many different people can think of it so many different ways and experience it. Some people, they don't really know the word, like truly, like have never even like thought about it. And I think that that blockage that you speak of with this, with men, I think it's
Mhm.
because men don't really often have spaces to talk about their feelings and, you know, their emotions. And so as women, I feel like it's a little bit like easier for us to just
Mhm.
naturally like talk about these things. But even with my partner in recent years, I've noticed that the more in tune that I get about this, the more he is building that language around, you know, feeling and emotions. So I find it so fascinating, you know?
No, I agree. Why I said that men don't feel it. I think for for them, like you said, it's touch. It's something I think that they experience by being in a woman's presence if she is in her sensual energy. But for us women, I think it's something internal that we can feel the energy of. We can, like, I can be in my sweats and still feel really good about myself and still feel sensual. And I think it's also like, you know, the four elements that we are made of. I feel like for men, the fire is their motivation, their action. But for women, we can have motivation, action, as well as sensuality. I think there's two sides to our fire, whereas for men, it's very much one dimensional in that sense that their internal fire is mostly from um, taking action or doing something physical in the physical realm, as opposed to for us, we have one side is more physical where we feel motivated, we can take action, but the other is more spiritual, that is, you cannot really see sensuality, you cannot really see that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always used to say that, you know, there are six aspects to our lives, and the three we can see them: health, wealth, relationships. That's why the world is crazy about these three aspects of life. You know, if you have heard that the most profitable niches are health, wealth, relationships, because we see them on a physical level, and
Mm,
that's why they get so much priority, whereas, you know, there are other hidden layers more in the spiritual realm, that is mental health, spiritual health, and emotional health, that
mm.
are more hidden, deeper. So that's why these are more like the feminine traits of oneself, and that's why they're not the top selling markets, you know, because our world is so physical, that we only focus on what we can see, which is, I'm sure people, if you lose weight, gain weight, people will ask you. If you have a new partner or breakup, people will ask you about your career, about your salary, car, home, people will ask you. But the others are often very, very neglected in today's society. And I hope that through people like you, me, and many others who are coming up now, we can start really talking about both sides of the spectrum, and how all of that in totality creates us and therefore creates this world.
Part of that narrative is, for me, what I'm learning is this erotic energy. And
Mhm.
I think that it's something we, I guess, like what feels sometimes it's so oppressed in my culture, in my society, that I think that it's only now that I've started to go in and do the work on myself that I've broken away from like the shame and the guilt of these types of topics. And so even like the word like erotic and eroticism, people right away associate it just with sex
Yeah.
and just thinking that it's, you know, this very pornographic thing, when actually I'm learning that it's like an energetic field
Mhm.
that like we as people, like we haven't really tapped into outside of just our relationships. And I had like a recent experience where I was experiencing this like very real energetic exchange with a friend, and it was it was in turn viewed as disrespectful. And I thought
Mhm.
it was so fascinating because it felt innocent, it felt playful and flirtatious and loving. It didn't
Hmm.
feel like something that, needed to be shamed in any way.
Right.
And so in this like realm of like energetics, like you speak a lot about the masculine and feminine, have you yourself ever like looked into like erotic energy and explored this realm?
So, firstly, on that, I want to say that definitely what you said about this being a very taboo topic, that is true. Like even in my culture, you cannot even mention words like these, or like absolutely zero conversation. Um, I remember one time something that still stuck with me is in my culture, and I don't want to just sit here and berate my culture, but this is what I have seen growing up, that you know in front, like the fights that adults would have, let's say a mom and dad, um they would always fight in front of children. The fights would always take place in front of the children. However, the making up part, we never saw that. Like even like in our culture, it's even holding hands with your partner, you cannot do that in front of family, let
Right.
alone kissing or anything like that. So we never saw a glimpse of empathy, kindness, love towards each other in front of us, but the fights would be all okay. So while growing up, like after I grew up, I realized like how weird is that a culture is totally fine fighting in front of their young. So for the kids, it's like, oh my God, mom and dad or uncle and aunt, they're having such huge fights.
Ah,
Maybe there's no one talking properly for 5 days, and on the sixth day, oh, they're acting fine. And now I just have to get on board and realize, oh, everything's fine now. How almost like twisted and demented is that we cannot show that we love each other, like I love your dad, I love your mom. Like you cannot say that in front of kids, or at least show those expressions of love in front of kids, but you are okay to fight.
yeah.
So this eroticism, I think this is like, even the word love or being in love is looked down upon
Mm,
almost in my culture, and let alone eroticism. For me personally, I think I have become more comfortable with all of these over the years.
yeah.
um, I also grew up with a lot of shame around these topics, but um, because I think I also came out of my family home, family country, at a relatively younger age. I think I was able to groom myself in that way, or become more comfortable with these topics, and also having a long-term partner where I felt very safe all the time, very seen, safe. Um, no topics are really off bound, so we can talk about it. And he was my best friend for 2 years before we started dating, so it's always like you're with your best friend. So I think over the years I have gotten very comfortable with these energies,
Mhm.
whether it's within myself or in society at large. But I think overall society, especially non first world countries, I think they have a lot more work to do in this front. And I think it makes sense also, like with the risks that come in. Like if a woman was openly talking about eroticism and sensuality openly back home, um, it's not safe, basically. So I
Mm.
think as the world is progressing and more people are waking up to all of this, I think, of course, we have to have hope. So I think it will get better. But so far, I think you're right. It's still a very, very taboo topic.
And bringing it back to this like dynamic in families, like it's so healthy to have these open conversations, because then a child can grow up knowing that it's okay to have these feelings, it's okay to have a healthy sex life and all these,
Hmm.
and the energy within that space as well. Like, for a child that sees only fighting, it's like,
Yeah.
is that all there is? Like I
Hmm.
don't understand where I like I don't want to fight with people. Where do I
Mhm.
fit in that equation?
Yeah.
So, it's so important to see like all the aspects of relationships. And I think that
Mhm.
when you bring this topic up, it opens the conversation to so many different, feelings and emotions. And it's very important, I feel. Um, so I have this new idea.
Okay.
Um, I have a jar and I have written numbers on it.
Okay.
So I'm going to pull a number. You just tell me when.
Stop.
Ooh, number 8.
Okay.
Okay. And there is a question associated with this number. So let me pull it up. And I have no idea what the questions are. So, okay.
That's very interesting. Let's go for it.
All the questions have to do slightly with like sensuality or
Mhm.
eroticism. So, this one is about curiosity. So it says, what is something you've always been curious about exploring creatively or in yourself, but never voiced?
I think I've always been curious within myself in terms of like expression, um, of singing, but I have never. I don't think I've voiced it or really delved into the. For some reason, I always had this belief growing up that my voice is very n- nosy. Like I call it adenoidal. It's a word. So it's
Okay.
almost when you have a cold and your um, voice kind of becomes very nosy. I don't know how else to describe it. I have a better word for it in my language, but I don't know how to translate it properly in English. So I always felt like I have a very adenoidal voice. And that's why I never even thought of singing ever, but it's something that always interested me. And if I ever find the opportunity in life, I think I'd really like to take a few lessons and see how bad my voice actually is.
You mean how good your voice actually is? Mhm.
That's those are the limiting beliefs, you see, like they just come up.
It's okay. I got you. I'm here to flip them. Honestly, like that sounds so incredible. Like the fact that you bring up, your voice and movement, like in dance, like it just sounds like there's a part of you that just wants to keep like creating and flowing from this feminine energy. And so it sounds like she's just ready to just play, like let her play.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like the more I'm living life, like I realized in the middle, like there were many years where I almost like choked my feminine side to death. Like, like do not come out. It was all like very serious. Like, don't you dare come out and make me weak. I need to like, be my adult self. And I have almost like let go of that side of myself, but the more I'm realizing the power of balance and
Mm,
not being like too attached, basically like not being too attached to anything in this life, whether that's your own identity or
mm.
material things or any ideas, doesn't matter. Like we humans are not supposed to know everything at one point of time. I think it's normal to keep on evolving until the day we die, and there's no reason to be so attached to anything because and it also comes from I was a person who always said like, oh, this is who I am. Like if I cannot do something, oh, I never did it, this is who I am, this is how I am. Like
Mm.
very almost like defensive to growth, like nope, not doing that, I have never done that, I have never been that. But the moment it kind of hit me like a freight train, the day I realized, it was almost 10 years back probably now, I was like, wait, like everyone always taught me that I can learn, like if I'm not good at maths, practice maths, you'll get better. Not good in a language, practice it, you'll get better. What are We are exactly that. Our identities are exactly that. Why have I been conditioned to believe that we are like this stock beings that cannot change, and of course it comes every like most of the things comes from childhood. Like my a lot of the men in my family had very bad tempers, and then
Mm.
that also I also have it. But it's like growing up, the moment if you question them, or if you're like, why, they're like, oh, this is what I have always been, this is what I have always learned, so I cannot change that. And I grew up believing a lot of things about myself, that this is who I am. But the more I started questioning everything, I'm like, okay, it was someone I have been, but I don't need to carry that forward if it's not serving me. And I think from there I started realizing that we get so attached to so many different things in life, but the more we can be flexible, the more we can be, that, yeah, I don't know everything right now. Like unlearning is one of them. Is another very underrated trait, that when you learn something, we just get stuck, like, oh, this is how to do it. Probably not. Probably there's a million different ways. So in this phase of my life, that's what I'm trying: balance and being non-attached, so being detached. Yeah, that's a better word.
I saw this. I love Pinterest, and I came across this pin that said, what was it? Attached to nothing, connected to everything. And I find that so beautiful, because this like attachment is like something that like we need, right? We just like, oh, like we hold on to it so like tightly. And then when you think about not being attached to anything, it's almost like fraying. But then you
Mm-hmm.
think about like what connection is, and it's like the energetics of like you can
Mm-hmm.
let go of things but still be connected to them.
Yeah.
And like when you're attached to things, like it's almost like this like string that is so tight, you know? That's how I kind of imagine it. Like attachment is like on a string, and like connection is just like this like clean energy that's just all around me.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
attachment, I feel like it's almost like you're at the mercy of the thing, person, people, whatever you are attached to, you're at the mercy of that at the end of the day. It's not being in your power. So, like I was saying, that, I realized I was very like over masculine, but once I recognized that, I was like, okay, I do not have to be attached to either or, like, oh, I'm, super girl boss and I don't do any, it's fine. Like, I can be anything and everything. There's no like definition that I have to attach to my identity, that, oh, this is who I am and I have to be this. So, um, yeah, I think that that really helps. At least that's what I'm finding in my life, that being a little bit detached from everything, like even the relationship that I have, I always say that, every day that I'm getting with him is a blessing. It's not like, if someday in the future it doesn't work out or whatever, I don't know, there's so many things can happen, but it's not like, I know for a fact, even if we're not together, I will always respect him. I'll always, I will always honor the times that we did have together. So I try looking at everything like this. It's not like, oh, I got him once, now I own him, like
Yeah.
almost that obsessive energy. Like, I say this because I think we were in grade 10 when this conversation happened. Yeah, but I told him clearly that if at any point, I'm adding more like problems, pain, sorrows to your life than I'm adding joy, then please let me know and we'll
Mm.
part ways beautifully and respectfully. And same goes for him. He also knows, like, if he's adding more pain and problems and tears to my life than joy and happiness, if we're not having more fun together, like, of course life is hard and there will be ebbs and flows, but on an average, why do we want relationships if they're not making our lives better in some shape or form, right? So I always try to look at everything from a little bit more distance, as opposed to like being super clingy and attached to, whether that's a relationship, job, any title, or even with my own identities. And I have been so many throughout like my life. Now I feel like I have had a few lifetimes. I left my country when I was like 18, 19. Then I was in another city, um, that I left. I studied something and then I started my corporate career in something completely different. Now I'm doing something different. So it's like, it's always changing. So the more I'm living, I'm realizing, yeah, it's pointless being attached. It's so pointless being attached. It's better to kind of, take your hands off that wheel a little bit and be in a more chill spot where, if needed, you can still get to the steering wheel and steer back. But otherwise, you're like, cool, you do not always have to be like on edge constantly, like, oh my God, anytime anything can happen energy. I think it's like once you have the basic necessities taken care of, I think it's more healthier to be a little bit more chilled out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. Like that whole dynamic with like partnerships, I think growing up, I always saw this like, oh, I need this person in order to be myself. And, I saw it a lot with like my parents and their
Yeah.
dynamic. And then I've seen it like in, my aunts and uncles. And I just find it so fascinating that I've gotten to a point in my life where I have like released that, that flow, and that I've released that expectation that this person needs to always be at the forefront of everything I do and my life. And so when it comes to like my partner now, I like openly tell him like, hey, like I will always respect you and love you. It won't matter like in the future how it changes, because like you said, like what we've had together, it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
It remains. And it's so beautiful to also release that energy of attachment,
Hmm.
because it's hard to be in that energy of fearing that this person might not come home,
Hmm.
and that they may fall in love with someone else, and everything you had just crumbles. And it's like,
Yeah.
actually no, like you can't get rid of all those memories, all those identities that they went along with you
Hmm.
and experienced with you. So like you said, those many lifetimes that we've lived in this
Hmm.
relationship, like they've created who you are now. Like
Yeah.
it's just so beautiful and profound. Like how could anyone think that it explodes and goes away? And
Yeah.
that
My
whole
husband
connection.
and I, we always say that we don't need each other. We wake up and choose each other every morning. So,
Hmm.
I think and this is one of my problems, you can say, with like the feminine energy online space that we have today.
Yeah.
A lot of content is just surrounding like, oh, how to get a man, how to get, even like manifestation, how to get your ex back, topics like that. And feminine energy has almost become this thing you do, like an act you perform in
Mm,
order to get a partner.
mm,
And I feel like I hope with my content I can slowly start changing that narrative a little bit, that it's not about the man, it's not about getting this high value man or whatever the terminology is. It's about becoming more whole and complete within yourself, so that you do not need anything but that energy, I think, brings more things to you when you're not constantly in this living in this fear, like, oh, I need this, that's very repulsive. That, like, imagine having a stalker, you wouldn't run to them, you'd be like, no thank you. So I feel like I understand that these are very clickbaity, and it gets the people going, I guess. But I find it so like problematic almost, that it, like, the conversations should be more about like, being whole and complete on your own,
mm,
really understanding that you are worthy of everything you desire, but you need to give yourself that love first. Like, now that I think about it, there was many many years when I started dating my boyfriend for quite a few years. It's so embarrassing to share it now, but I was like, what is he doing with me? Like, why is he here? Like, I was so sure that there will be some ulterior motive down the road. Someday it will come up, that because I didn't love myself back then. So I could not fathom that why would someone as great as him, why is he loving me? What's going on? But probably he saw a lot more things in me before I could see it. And now I do see it. So now I'm like in this relaxed state where it's not like I need him to prove anything to myself.
yeah.
Okay, I like myself, I love myself. If he stays there and enhances my life, and if I get that opportunity, that's great. If not, that's fine too. Like, I feel like more conversations should be on like self-prioritization, and like we talked about, becoming divinely selfish, not harming others, but at least taking care of yourselves, loving yourself wholly and completely, and then choosing your life according to what actually you want. What do you want, and until and unless we do not get really tuned in with that feminine energetic side of ourselves, how do we know what we want? That's how, like, I say that my life before leaving the job and everything, my life was perfect on paper. Like, I could have everything probably I dreamt of as a kid. I had more than that, and yet I felt empty. So I think this feminine energy conversation needs to shift a little bit from this attracting a man or attracting a partner to more self-love, self-prioritization, and hopefully that change in turn can bring a woman everything that she desires.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that so much. And I've been with my partner for, I think, almost 12 years now. And so it's interesting that I haven't been in the dating field for quite some time. And, so I can't really relate to what people, are going through when they want to manifest like a partner, because I've
Mhm.
had him so long. And I think it's just a very, very interesting thing to be an observer of this day and age, like
Mhm.
to see how people are wanting that person before they want themselves,
Yeah.
or they truly desire like the life that they're creating for themselves,
Mhm.
and what I've come to find is that it's challenging to create that life that you desire with another person. You can do it, but what I've learned is that either it's going to have way more challenges because you're trying to ebb and flow in your own lane, and this person also has their feelings, their expectations, their insights, and it's almost like you have to navigate that with that person and find that flow state. So I love that you make it about women finding themselves, individuals
Yeah.
finding themselves first, and that person will naturally come of that whole experience, that shift
Mhm.
in your identity. So it's beautiful to see that.
Yeah, I think anything and everything in life does respond in that same way. The more you know yourself, at the end of the day, the better relationship you have with yourself. I always say that, won't you rather have your best friend by you all the time as opposed to your worst enemy or worst nemesis? Like, why would you want to hang out with your worst nemesis all the time? So the more we can become our own best friends and just have that cheerleader with us all the time, life just becomes more fun. And the more you get to know yourself, you know your preferences. Like, it can be as simple as just knowing your own preference in everything, whether that's a career, that's finances, the type of home you want, the type of car you want, partners, of course. Anything and everything becomes so much easier when you are truly in tune with yourself, as opposed to you have so much information about what everyone else is expecting from you, and then you're building a life on that foundation. That, okay, my parents want this, my society wants this, my teacher told me this, and now you're trying to build a life on that foundation, as opposed to stopping and asking yourself, wait, what do I want? And I think for most of us who have been in such go 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 mindsets, like, it took us 30 years to be like, oh wait, I did build a life that was not mine. Wait a minute, like, everything looks great on paper, but is it truly mine? And then you need to kind of go through that entire like, remembering yourself, reinventing, and reframing your life. But I think the more that conversations like these become the norm,
Yeah.
I hope for future generations they won't have to go through all of that to find themselves, and they can slowly build that relationship while they're growing up, as opposed to chunking everything together after like 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah. I mean, if we can pass down this type of wisdom like early on, it's just incredible. It's human evolution of, something so much greater than just us, right? It's like
Yeah.
human like evolution and generational just healing and all these beautiful things. So before we go, I wanted to ask if you could put out a message into the universe from Safwat, who was crying driving in that car and felt like there wasn't a change in sight. Like, what would you tell her? And for people out there going through something similar, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that the fact that we are here is a miracle. The chance of any soul being born is, I think, 1:400 trillion or something like that. That the exact quirkiness, exact you ratio that you were born with, that's 1:400 trillion. So the fact that you're here is a miracle in itself. There has to be purpose in that. So many big planets and giant structures floating around in the sky, and suddenly you are this tiny being on this planet. Like, there has to be purpose in that. So while that is true, also don't take life too seriously. Start loving yourself, start having fun, so that you get to understand what really piques your interest. And once you do find something you're curious about, follow that.
I love that so much. Safwat, thank you so much for joining me and for just opening your heart to this conversation. And I appreciate you and the work that you do. And I hope that you just continue to spread your beautiful light throughout the world. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I think since I joined this women's group and came across you, I think you have always been so kind with your energy, with your words. And I'm so grateful to be here with you, to have this beautiful conversation with you. And I really hope that we get to do this in one more year and see what new lessons life has taught both of us, what you have learned, what you have gone through, and then what I learned. I think that would be so interesting.
Let's do it. Let's already put it on the calendar, mark it right here. And
Yeah.
honestly, who knows? Like maybe in a year it'll be in person and we
Who
can't do
knows?
this
Yeah.
interview. Who knows?
Yes, and then I'll steal one of your paintings while while leaving your studio or your home.
Well, you're going to be a millionaire by then, so you could just buy one.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. No, definitely. I do not want to steal your painting. I want that on record. I might want it, but I'll still pay for it in full. They're beautiful.
Thank you so much. I do appreciate it. And honestly, I create art like this from a space that I genuinely feel like calls to people like you. And I feel like it attracts like beautiful people like you who can see the beauty in it and like cherish it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. So thank you so much. And I look forward to talking to you soon. This concludes another episode of the Sensual Canvas Podcast. And I want to thank the beautiful Safwat Shafiq for joining me and opening up her beautiful heart to this conversation. I am so grateful to her for just coming in and sharing her beautiful work and for continuing to share herself, opening herself up to the possibility of something so sensual, so freeing as her masculine and feminine work. So if you're interested in Safwat's work, I will be sure to link all her info down below. And be sure to give this little video a like, comment, whatever you feel called to do. And I'm looking forward to the next one.